Now, the Prime Minister faces a political showdown after talks on press reform with Labour and the Lib Dems broke down yesterday.
MPs are now expected to debate the proposals on Monday. David Cameron wants what he calls a tough press regulator that can give fines of up to £1 million, along with prominent apologies. But Labour and the Liberal Democrats want more. They say the PM is caving into pressure from newspaper bosses, and they want laws to govern the press as proposed by Lord Leveson in his inquiry, including a body to issue a code of conduct. Anne Diamond gave evidence to the Leveson inquiry. She joins us now. And Anne, I suspect you're pretty frustrated about all this toing and froing.
Yeah, frustration is a very good word. The other words are upset, distress, actually, after all of this time and money, but particularly as well after all the angst. It wasn't easy for any of these so-called victims going to before Leveson and giving all of that evidence about the sort of things that they had had to endure in the past. It was like reliving some reopening some old wounds. But we did it because we thought here, for the first time, we may actually get a move forward for a proper press regulatory system in this country. And as Leveson said, just a statutory underpinning does not amount to press regulation by the state. It does not threaten press freedom, and yet here we have.
Although,
it suddenly started to become a political issue.
I know, but the Foreign Secretary in Hague said that press laws are likely to be seized upon by autocratic regimes to defend their systems, and we currently here, apparently in this country, have more journalists under arrest than they do in Iran. I mean, that's not particularly good, is it?
That's not good, but I'd like to know why, because the problem is now we're descending into wordplay. And before the politics and the wordplay came round again, and we've been here before, at last we had Leveson, who was put in charge of a totally objective inquiry. And look how much it cost, and look how long it took. And the Prime Minister said that unless it was balmy, he would put into operation all of his recommendations.
So just explain.
It's gone back to the politicians again.
Well, explain why. Because I think for people who don't follow this story very closely, the difference between a royal charter, which is what the Prime Minister wants, and something being in statute, which is what Nick Clegg and Ed Miliband want. What's the difference?
Well, that's a very good point, and I'm not sure I know exactly the answer to that question, because how many of us really do? But if anything comes down, as far as I understand it, to a royal charter, basically MPs can make the decision about it. So it becomes a political decision again. Whereas if something is underpinned by law, that is the law that is agreed. And I'm only talking about underpinning. We are not talking about state regulation of the press. Leveson went into this. He's a much more learned person than I. He came up with a set of recommendations that we all thought that this is the right way ahead. And then suddenly, because I fear the politicians don't quite like the way this now sets them up with the press barons, somebody's been got at.
Well, you think they're serving themselves here, regardless of what Rambo quoted there, William Hague saying, you know, it's politicians meddling in the free press is a dangerous thing to do, isn't it? Churchill himself said the free press is the foe of tyranny.
Yes, and I'm a journalist. I believe in a free press. But look at what the problems that has set us before. Look at the last 20 or 30 years where the press have enjoyed the freedom to abuse. And that's all we want to stop, is this freedom to abuse, by actually setting up some sort of statutory underpinning, and Leveson is the one who sorted out the detail, this statutory underpinning that will protect ordinary people from press abuse.
And the point is the trust has been eroded so far and so deeply, you just feel that the law is the only way now to restore trust.
Yes, but again, we're not talking about we're not talking about state regulation, we're still talking about statutory underpinning of self-regulation. It's a subtle point, but it's so important because the system hasn't worked up till now. This was our chance to change the system into something that would work.
And thanks.
Okay. It's on Monday, isn't it?
They're debating on Monday. I'm sure we'll see you shortly after that.
What sort of political shenanigans are going to go on over the weekend to ensure a different vote? I don't know what's going to go on.
Well, we'll read about it in the Free Press.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, won't we?
MPs will debate new press laws on Monday in a Commons showdown likely to expose deep divisions in the coalition. Nick Clegg and Ed Miliband are expected to join forces against David Cameron. He wants a royal charter to establish a new newspaper regulator. But Labour and the Lib Dems back the Leveson inquiry's call for statutory control. Campaigners are angry at the delays.
Upset, distress, actually, after all of this time and money, but particularly as well after all the angst. It wasn't easy for any of these so-called victims going to before Leveson and giving all of that evidence about the sort of things that they had had to endure.